almost every day of your life, you're most likely experiencing trauma on some level. When trauma occurs in our life, and this could be really big, horrific, awful trauma from war, trauma from loss, trauma from grief, trauma from abuse. Or we could even talk about trauma from criticism, trauma from discrimination, trauma from harassment. And a lot of times we don't consider those things to be traumatic because they become what we are accustomed to. They become part of our norm. You're most likely coming up against obstacles that are difficult and diminishing and negative and fear, inadequate, just bringing up so many just difficult emotions. And that is exhausting. So what happens in the brain when trauma occurs? Well, first off, the way your brain is set up, there's all these different parts and they all have their own job. I like to talk about the brain being like an airport, and the different terminals in the brain are responsible for different types of information that comes in. And information is like an airplane, and you've got your control tower telling the airplane where to land and where to receive that information and which terminals should be lit up during that process. So for me, if information is coming in and that information looks anything like the trauma I've received in my life, I have all these alarm bells, all these terminals that have been related to trauma that start lighting up. You're not sure if you should fight, flight, or freeze. If you have a lot of trauma in your life, as information comes in, all information starts looking like it might be traumatic. All relationships start looking like they might be abusive on some level. They might be excessively abusive or minimally abusive, but still abusive. Love relationships, all forms of love relationships become semi-terrifying because your alarm systems are always on alert. Now, when the sides of your head, when the sides of your brain are constantly on alert, you're hypervigilant, you're checking things out, you're questioning, second-guessing, overthinking, overanalyzing every information that comes to you, every airplane that's flying at you, your frontal cortex, where all your logic is held, doesn't have the energy to even engage. We call that brain fog. And what that is low brain waves in the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex is where all of your thinking really happens. Not your reacting, but your thoughtful responses. So information's coming in and you're freaking out. And you're freaking out all the time because there's constant information in this world. There's Facebook, there's social media, there's kids, there's school, there's husband, there's boyfriend, there's significant others, there's family members, relatives, your own stuff, doctors, medicals. There's all kinds of stuff that comes at you every day. Your brain's exhausted. And it's so exhausted that it's created a pattern of over-responding with your alarm bells and not thinking with your logic. So when you try to think, it's really hard. You're like, I can't turn all this off. I can't shut all this down so I can think or even rest. So how do you work through that? Some of you guys asked about physical fatigue, fibromyalgia. They're saying is linked to early childhood trauma, physical pain. A lot of autoimmune disorders are linked to early childhood trauma. It's when your body begins fighting itself because it's in a constant state of fight. It's in a constant state of trauma and alert. So much of your physical drain, your mental drain, your fatigue can be specifically related to patterns of past trauma. Maybe not current trauma, or maybe the current exhaustion's bringing up the trauma because it relates to how you used to feel exhausted and drained and emotionally empty all the time. But these patterns, these flight patterns with the information that's coming in, can just continually be cycled over in the body. And that can create long-term physical ailments, physical fatigue. A couple of quick tips on how to reduce the alarm bells, to calm the brain, to allow it to begin healing. Okay? First off is set a realistic time frame. This isn't going to happen in a month. It's not going to happen in a year. Okay? It might take you a long time. It's going to be a lifetime journey of being gentle with yourself, embracing your limitations, focusing on your trauma, and being kind while you try to heal. Okay? You're not going to go to a therapist for 6 weeks and feel all better. That doesn't happen. So, here's some things you can do. Hot baths with Epsom salt. Hot baths, hot showers, using minerals like Epsom salt can help the body induce fever-like states. Because when your body goes into fever-like state, it's reducing swelling in the brain, okay? It actually allows the brain and the body to heal itself. So it can go in and it can begin healing work. Another thing, keep your immune system super strong. Take those vitamins. Young Living has an amazing line of supplements. Take those vitamins, okay? Eat healthy, lots of good brain fats. I know we're in a no-fat, sugar substitute culture these days, but eat lots of good brain fats, okay? The other thing you can do, sleep. Good chunks of sleep. If you have trouble falling asleep, use valerian. I know it stinks, but use it anyway. Get your sleep. Set up a sleep routine and begin building your life around a sleep pattern. Exercise, okay? Get that gym membership. Even if you just go once a month, get the gym membership, go. Join a kickball, baseball, softball, volleyball, sporting, karate, jiu-jitsu, yoga. Join a physical, physically engaging activity with people, okay? Get exercise, build relationships, get friends. So important. Make time for that. If it's biking, if it's kayaking, if it's rowing, if it's whatever it is, physical activity. If you have physical limitations and you're like, well, that's great, Tara, but you don't understand. I've super overweight. I've got physical ailments. I can't feel my body half the time. I'm exhausted. I don't know how to get up out of bed, let alone go do yoga. I get it. I really do. Okay? So start small. Just walk your driveway. Okay? Get outside and garden. Okay? That's a physical activity. It's very laborious. Garden. Grow something. Walk around your yard. Okay? If you can walk inside, go to go somewhere. Like the mall's not a great place because there's all those triggers and alarm bells, but find a place where you can do some indoor water aerobics. Water aerobics, great. Those are great activities. I know that it's going to be frustrating and it's going to be overwhelming and it's going to be a lot all at once, but start small and go and get connected. And you might have an autoimmune disorder, you might have fibromyalgia, you might be struggling with your weight, you might be struggling with just immense brain fog all the time, and it's normal. And it's sad that that's your normal, but that's where you're at, and embrace where you're at. Because you can't get where you're going if you don't decide to walk away from where you've been. I hope you found this video helpful. Remember that YouTube is no substitute for therapy. If you liked this video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe. Also, follow us on Facebook at mentalhealth.taranichols.